the Beastmen are still kind of playing in the mud with sticks and stones, waiting for their time to shine bright like Morslib once more. But if you play SFO Grimhammer, they're a lot more fun there. When you've got SLAANGOR Fiendbloods, Great Bray Shamans, and SLAANGOR summons that don't crumble out instantly, you know you're going to be in for a pretty good show. But the Cloven ones aren't the only beasts in SFO. The Azure Star is Ascendant with an Archmage of the Lore of Death, some White Lion Chariots, and Phoenix Guard are an even scarier force to reckon with here. See what happens when the Children of Chaos and the Children of Azurian face off on Total War Warhammer 2. And today, the beasts are led by a Lord level caster, which would be a really nice addition in their upcoming Lord pack. We'll see if it happens. Give them a lot more flexibility. But totems are the focus in this one. Magical artifacts that buff the Brayherds within their radius. Kind of think of the War Banners from Vermintide 2, except each totem has a different effect. Anything that fights nearby that totem, where it's summoned, will be invigorated with unholy energies. That is exactly what the Wargor and the Great Bray Shaman will be doing this game, fighting in the front lines alongside that Gorbel, activating their trap cards, and helping turn regular Gors into something a bit more special. The Wargor isn't incredible in melee combat. He doesn't have a fantastic stat line, but he's a decent melee combatant, and he can certainly help turn the tide in other ways outside his melee prowess. Totem of the Victims will slow down enemies and lower their melee attack, while Totem of the Herd grants his Gors physical resistance, melee defense, and immune to Psych, which is very good when Gors can be a little bit susceptible once their Primal Fury wears off to Terror Routing. Sons of Goros feel like an auto-include here. Bonus for large and magical attacks help them trade well into Dragon Princes or Silver Helms, and SLAANGOR might very well be the stars of the show. They're meant to be used like a cav unit, using that high charge bonus and fastest infantry speed in the game to cycle charge, but in prolonged melee, they do not hold up very well. Some throwing axes on the flanks, and across the desert for the High Elves, the Eagles are coming, alongside a pretty elite-focused army. An Archmage of the Lore of Death is joined by a retinue of White Lion Chariots with Buna, Spirit Leech, and Doom and Darkness, and of course Buna is completely different in SFO. It progressively reduces melee stats as its target laughs themselves to death, just like in the lore. Much cooler spell than it is in the base game. It still has a direct damage component, but I think that direct damage is lessened and is focused more on armor piercing rather than just nuking a unit completely into oblivion, but it does debuff them heavily. The Silent Guardians of the Shrine of Azurian are the core of this High Elf build, and they are, well, they're pretty terrifying in SFO. Each model basically has a stat line of a Wargor. They're essentially unbreakable. They can fight anything and everything at once and look stylish as hell while they slice down the enemies of the Phoenix Throne. Super hard to kill, and all the while they're buzzsawing through your most important troops. So, with 3 of them on the field, supported by some Rangers and Lethern Seaguard, a head-on engagement might not be the best idea for the Brayherds. So naturally, in any game with a Wildcaster, Savage Dominion is first priority, and the spell is very strong here because summons crumble much more slowly due to higher HP pools. So you can get a lot of value out of a Cygor, throwing boulders clear over the mountains like Uncle Rico. Phoenix Guard are maybe a bigger threat to the Beastmen right now, but Lethern Seaguard are in a blockier formation, which means artillery will be more effective at wiping them out quickly. The Chariot Squad almost got caught out by the Sons of Goros, disengaged just in time. Absolutely filthy shots slamming home from the Cygor. Standard Bearer looks behind him for a second. Thanks to Kadai, he somehow managed to survive the first one. Then he gets pancaked by the next one. Lethern Seaguard unit is now a red smear and quickly losing their elf power. Cygor has not missed yet, and it's doing so much damage to the Lethern Seaguard in the rear. My god. Beastmen are piling in to stuff up the charge of the Tyrannok Chariots, but there's no Purple Sun or Vortex spell for the Elf Mage, so no real way to punish blobs. Fate of Buna is really all they can rely on, and Soul Blight to kind of reduce the melee stats. But Chariots are deciding to go right up the center, and the Sons of Goros disengaging alongside their Centaur brethren to try to get in on the White Lion Chariots and shut down the Great Eagles who have already dove into the rear. So, quickly, Elves getting very aggressive. This is a rush army from the Azure for sure. They're doing everything they can to force the Beastmen to commit their infantry, let the Phoenix Guard ply their bloody trade. Cygor summon still dropping bombs from downtown. Fate of Buna going down on the Sons of Goros, spell that lasts for 90 seconds. And by the last stage of the spell will all but make them useless in CQB for about a 20-25 second duration. Eagles managed to escape from a rather hairy situation. They're back up top, flying overhead, and the Illyrian Reavers diving into the rear while a Totem of the Herd goes down in the center. And the Reavers going after the Ungor archers, but pulling away, and what just happened? Collapsed in on themselves like a neutron star, got super jumbled up, pooped their pants, panicked, and now the Beastmen will pounce on their error and rip them apart. Meanwhile, the Totem of the Herd in the center, giving physical resistance, immune to psych, and melee defense in an AoE, keeping those Beastmen in the fight for now, while the Chariots try to bust through the center. The Eagles have gone in on the SLAANGOR summon and are shredding it apart. But remember, there will be one more Savage Dominion summon before this is all said and done. If you bring in Lore of Wilds, it's typically going to be the spell you go for. But the Phoenix Guard are ripping and tearing through the Ungor front line, and this is why you bring them in quite a few matchups. We've seen them do it against the Empire. I think Phoenix Guard are very strong there. Be very strong against the Beastmen too, because they will rip up the infantry, the monstrous infantry, the cavalry, the monsters, pretty much everything you send their way in a pure grind. And of course, Beastmen don't have a lot of range tools for easily shutting them down from downtown. SLAANGORs can do it, Throwing Axes can do it, Ungor Raiders can do it to an extent, although they're not the most damaging of archers in the game, of course. But yeah, so far, this melee rush for the Elves have bust through the front line. They're looking to dive into the rear, but the Eagles got caught out. Fate of Buna still active. Throwing Axes going down. Oh my god, they just got deleted from the game. That was disgusting. Eagles are gone, and Middle-earth would have been a much darker place if that same thing had held true in the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit trilogies. Yeah, Eagles are kind of OP in that series for sure. Tier 9 Chariots is just caught out as well. I think they purposely ran into melees just to try to stuff them up, with the Lothran Sea Guard start focus firing on all these low armor targets. It's not a terrible idea. The Tier 9 Chariot isn't really an amazing tool in this matchup at this point. It's done its job, tied down some infantry, gotten some kills, but really not going to be that great in a prolonged fight like Ithilmar or White Lion Chariots would be. SLAANGOR are retreating from the Phoenix Guard. They've already been beaten up badly by them. They want to avoid a straight grind. I mean, the Phoenix Guard are untouched at this point. I'm not sure they've lost a model map wide. Soulblight upgraded in the center, extended effect duration, and Totem of Morslib, restoring up to 1200 HP in an AoE, alongside some plus melee attack, but even still, the Sons of Goros aren't looking too healthy. That focus fire from the Lothran Sea Guard has really hurt them. So has the Soulblight and the Fate of Buna. Some really nice spells being sent their way on a really important cav unit, one that's even more powerful in SFO than it is in vanilla. Phoenix Guard have just been so beastly so far. Like I said, I don't think they've lost a single model map wide. Or if they have, they've only lost a couple. All of them are looking extremely healthy at this point. And the Sons of Goros just broke off, and they've lost quite a few of their models up to this point. So the Throwing Axes have a very important job here. They need to combine with the Ungor Raiders to focus fire on the Phoenix Guard. And the SLAANGOR, well, there might be a good engagement coming on the Phoenix Guard here. They are isolated. The Wargor is in there, buffing them up with the Totem of the Herd. And the SLAANGOR with that 60 charge bonus and 66 speed. Heavy cavalry speed coming in, and this is exactly how you want to use them. They have incredible maneuverability, so if you don't utilize that, you're not getting the most out of it. In fact, you're typically going to actually do pretty poorly with them if you aren't trying to cycle charge. And it's weird because there's really no infantry unit like that in the base game. This is truly a unique specimen. An infantry unit with 66 speed is just not something you see very often. So it can be kind of hard to get into the right mindset to utilize them effectively, but if they're cycle charging, they can do a lot for you, and a good charge into the flank of the Phoenix Guard might be able to break them. But they're standing firm for now. They're full HP still, surrounded by the Wargor, by the SLAANGOR, by regular Gore Herd, and now with the Gorbul joining up. And this is interesting because in a normal engagement, you'd say, oh yeah, I mean, that unit's just going to disappear, right? They don't have the leadership to hold up against all this fury. But watch as the Gorbul HP pool starts to plummet. Phoenix Guard leadership is dropping, but when Phoenix Guard start losing in combat, they get more of a ward save, they get higher leadership, and they get more melee defense. So it really helps them stick it out in a terrible situation. And now that the Archmage is rolling through, things are getting pretty hairy for the fur babies of the Beastmen. And they're beginning to slip a bit here. The Gorbul, who was at about 4,000 HP when he plummeted into the center of their formation, now he's down to about 1,800 health, and the focus fire is coming from the Lothern Seaguard. That unit did come back after getting pounded into what I thought was oblivion from the Cygor. They have returned. They've got about 25, 30 models or so, and another Fate of Buna going down on a throwing axe unit. I'm not sure I agree with that spell selection. I think there may be better ways to use that because the unit's not going to be fighting in melee anyway. At least it shouldn't be. Beastmen Roar and Call of Violence on the left flank, and a Totem of the Herd again going down from the Wargor. Nice rear charge from the Gore Herd to finish off these Rangers, I think. It looks like they're about, yep, they just routed. And the Phoenix Guard are pushing through. One of them is very healthy. One of the centers a little bit less so. And I guess the Buna is dealing with the throwing axes because he realizes that outside the Cygor summons, the throwing axes are probably the biggest threat to the Phoenix Guard, and there is still a damage component from Fate of Boring. So that's probably why he's casting it on them, not for the melee debuff so much as the direct damage component. I just don't know how much that direct damage component is now at this point. The Totem of the Victims trying to slow down the Phoenix Guard as they push through, but they are on top of the Cygor summon now, and it might be difficult for that thing to get away. A Vile Tide going down on the Lothern Seaguard, disrupting their formation and preventing them from firing for a little bit. The Gorbul was routed off by the Lothern Seaguard focus fire. You see him at the top of the screen, moving towards the edge of the map. Ungor Raiders focus firing on the Phoenix Guard, and now it's pretty much up to the elites, the Silent Guardians of the Shrines of Azurian. Oh, the Great Bray Shaman. Well, he wanted to go into melee, and then he realized, I've made a mistake. Low armor means that all these shots coming in, oh my god, it just completely dumpstered his HP, and we may not be seeing that Great Bray Shaman again. The balance war is a little bit in favor of the Beastmen, but I guess kind of irrelevant because it started that way. Balance wars are very wonky in SFO. I'm not sure they matter too much. That was a disgusting shot coming in from the Cygor, though. That is how you get rid of Phoenix Guard if you're the Beastmen. One of the only reliable ways they have to do so. Ungor Raiders finishing off the rest of that unit. One more throwing. Oh my god, the boulders. These boulders. The Cygor summons have been incredible this game. And that is one Phoenix Guard unit dead and gone. Wargor plummeting into the thick of it. For the love of God, you better be able to beat Lothern Seaguard in melee. I mean, his leadership is dropping really low. He's at 15 leadership at the moment, and the foe render is beginning to waver alongside a severely depleted unit of Lothern Seaguard. I'm going to be a little bit embarrassed for him if he can't win this fight. And I think he might not be able to. Oh god. He's a melee specialist, he's a hero, he has as much HP as the infantry regiment itself. But they're both wavering, and we'll see who breaks first, but the Phoenix Guard are nearby, so that Wargor might not be in a good situation. The Archmage of the Lore of Death continuing her bloody rampage, but the Throwing Axe Centaurs have decided to commit, and now they have a full surround off. She routed almost instantly after that charge, and the Centaurs might be able to chase her all the way to the edge. The High Elves are looking very thin at this point. To be fair, the Beastmen are too. Both armies are in tatters. Not a lot of ammo left for either side. Not a lot of bodies left for either side. The Wargor just rallied. He did lose to a small group of Lothern Seaguard in melee, which is embarrassing, but it's not going to matter because army losses kicks in. Lothern Seaguard rout, Phoenix Guard rout, and that will be your game. The Cloven Ones take it. Very close there at the end. And the Phoenix Guard were incredible. 145, 169, 136 kills. Some chevrons earned too. Them alongside the Rangers, that is a potent melee rush combination for the High Elves. You don't see that every day against the Beastmen. Typically see a more skirmish style focused play. A lot of Lyrian Reaver archers, spread the field, dragons, that kind of thing. But this thing can work, especially in SFO when Phoenix Guard are such absolute beasts. Sons of Goros were pretty awesome this game. They did a lot of damage to the White Lion Chariots, and of course, throwing axes are always just value city. Such a good unit. 2,000 damage value on both of them, and a bunch of chevrons earned. SLAANGOR didn't get a lot of kills, but they did deal a lot of damage to the White Lion Chariot early in the battle, and they also dealt some good damage to the Phoenix Guard. So And they weren't incredible this game, and I didn't utilize them as well as I probably should have, because like I said, getting in the mindset for using them like a cav unit is weird, because they're infantry, and you don't typically think of them in that way. But they still did okay. 800 damage value, yeah. About 2,000 for a lot of these Phoenix Guard. And they were a nightmare to deal with. And I really like the Beastmen style of play in SFO. I mean, obviously their campaign is infinitely better than it is in vanilla until we get the Lord Pack and campaign rework for them. It'll probably remain true. But it's super fun to see what the Beastmen are capable of. And I like the new focus on the Totem playstyle, which I'm not sure when that was added, but the new Totems, the Wargor on the front line, the ability to slow enemies or heal yourself a little bit, and just drop some magical artifacts and fight within the radius and invigorate yourself. I think that's pretty cool, pretty thematic, and it works well with the Bright Herds. It worked well in this multiplayer game, and it was a fun one. GG to Gandalfon, and you'll be seeing more of our games very soon. Peace out.